Washington football. Woo! Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Burgundy Zone. I am your host, Kyle, and I am joined by my two co-hosts, Michael Hall and Michael Reed. But we are joined again by our friend of the podcast, Logan Paulsen, former tight end for the Washington football team. Thank you for joining us tonight, Logan. How are you doing?
I'm good, man. Thanks for having me on.
Of course. And last time that we had you on, Logan, was right after the draft. We were able to go through each of these draft picks, get your input on them. But a lot has happened since then, and one in particular was Morgan Moses, and I wanted to get your opinion on that move.
Yeah. So I actually trained Morgan Moses. He's still in the area, so we work out together quite a bit. So I talked to him a lot about his situation with the Washington football team. And the more that I talked with him, the more I kind of came to the conclusion that they were just ready to kind of get a little younger. They drafted Sam Cosmi, and I think they felt that Cosmi is ready to play. And then they go get Charles Leno, and then Charles Leno kind of had the stipulation that he was going to play left. So when that kind of falls as it did, you say we can get younger, we can get a little bit more athletic. The guy has less experience than Morgan, but I think that's the right move from a personnel standpoint. It might not be right from a fan standpoint. You know, Morgan Moses is one of my favorite guys I ever played with. Right. And I just think it's a matter of dollars and cents, right? They can get a guy for basically $1 million in Cosmi to play. And I think he's going to be a good player long-term. He might take some lumps this year, but I think long-term he's going to be a heck of a football player. And, you know, they can save some money on Morgan, I think about $8 million, and then they can put that towards an extension for maybe Allen if that's the direction they want to go. So, you know, it's tough, and it's a tough situation for him and his family, but, you know, I think he's excited to kind of be moving to the next opportunity.
Yeah, because Morgan is a former guest of ours. We absolutely love Morgan. He was the first player that we got on this show. We absolutely loved him. But do you know the timing of – was he notified kind of like Ryan Kerrigan was in January? Do you know? Like, what did they actually say to him that kind of was like, okay, I understand?
Yeah, so from what I understand, they were all set to bring him back, and they had kind of talked about bringing him back. And I think he had said a couple of weeks, maybe even a week prior, they had a meeting about how they were excited to get him back on the field. And then obviously things changed. I think post-draft that environment looked drastically different. And then Charles Leno comes up, and you know, I don't know. I played with Charles Leno too, and I was in Chicago. I think he's a good football player, but I would probably prefer Morgan Moses if I had an opportunity. So it's a little bit of a surprising move, which makes me think it's all about the money and just kind of getting a little younger and making some of these personal decisions. So, you know, I think he's going to land on his feet. Like, you know, I talked to him today. He's got a whole bunch of opportunities to play with different teams, and I think some situations will probably be better for him long term. So hopefully he picks a good spot for him and his family, and wish him all the best, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, definitely glad to see where he lands on his feet, like you said. And second with the O-line, they brought in guys like Eric Flowers. Like you mentioned, they drafted Cosmi. They brought in Charles Leno as well. They got all of a sudden a lot of depth on that offensive line per se. Some people say they don't. But how do you kind of see the line shaking out as far as the starters going into training camp? And how do you see this line kind of going forward into the season? Because I know a lot of people say that the offensive line is still kind of the iffy part of the offense.
You know, it's interesting. I've heard that too. I've heard that a lot from fans and people that I've talked with. And if you look at how they graded based on PFF, and PFF is not a perfect metric, but they were, I think, a top 7.
Don't tell them that. Don't tell them that.
Yeah, don't tell them. This will be all over the internet because I said that.
Yep.
They were a top 7 group, you know what I mean? And so, like, they were playing well. And if you go back and watch those tapes, like, are they perfect? No, but no O-line is. And they were playing well, even when they had all those injuries. And then, you know, Morgan was playing left for a little bit, and then Lucas came in and he did a good job. So, you know, I think you're bringing kind of that same nucleus back. But in addition, you've brought in some guys who I think are going to be better football. Like, you make that group better, increase the level of competition. You know, I think you have Schweitzer at left guard. I think he did a really nice job in the run game. I think you want to improve there a little bit as a pass protector potentially. But I think he could start. He starts for a lot of teams in the NFL, and he's here. Yeah. Flowers is here. He's just coming off that big deal in Miami. I think he's shown his ability to start in his last stint with the Washington football team. So I think now you have 2 guys who would be starters on another team, playing and vying for time in this offense, which is great. And that's exactly what you want. You bring in Charles Leno, you kind of bump Lucas back to that swing tackle role, which I think is where he wants and he should be for his career. There is value there, and I think he should be paid accordingly, but I think you've upgraded there. I think Cosme is maybe a little bit of a downgrade to Morgan Moses in the short term or in the intermediate. But I think long term, he just provides, I think the ceiling for him, we've talked about this before on the show. I think his ceiling is very, very high. And if you want to know how close he is to that ceiling as quickly as possible. So I think if he can kind of even get the ball rolling a little this year, he's going to be a pretty special football player. And I think at some point he moves over to left tackle, that whole musical chairs kind of starts again. But I think they've got plenty of depth. I think they're in a good spot. I think maybe you say they don't have depth if Sheriff leaves, but that's something you have to negotiate every year as a staff. I don't necessarily believe that that's an indication of poor depth. I think when you look at the guys they've got, how they played last year, they're bringing everybody back except for Morgan I think that's the right thing. I think they look good. So,
yeah, Washington, they've definitely made a lot of their weaknesses into strengths, it seems like, this offseason, at least on paper. I mean, so that's something that you really got to be impressed with. One position, though, that they ended up addressing in the draft, obviously, but I don't think a lot of fans think that they addressed it enough, is linebacker. But you do some terrific breakdowns, Logan. As you know, I'm a huge fan of your breakdowns on Instagram. You broke down Jamin Davis. What do you see from him, and how do you see him fitting in this defense?
Yeah, so I think one of the things that's really cool about Jamin Davis in terms of adding him to the group is he's kind of a force multiplier, right? He plays, in college he played inside, he played outside, he played kind of their like hybrid safety, in between the numbers and the hash on the field side in college. So he's got a lot of range. He can play all three downs. And I think when you have a guy like that, that's a little bit of a unicorn in a sense, like a guy that can do all the linebacker spots, can play inside, outside. You don't have to take him off the field on third down. In an NFL that's, let's just be honest, it's 60% of the time you're defending the pass, and like that linebacking group is challenged all the time, right? They got play action, they got intermediate, they got quick game, they got draws, they got all sorts of stuff they have to contend with. And so adding his speed and his athleticism, and I think probably most importantly, his recognition and his eye discipline. Like, I talked about in the breakdown, like, he is just very, very disciplined with his eyes. He sees things that most guys won't see. He matches concepts really well. And I think that's a really nice kind of way to round out that group. And, because he is so fast, and you think about it, it's just like a basketball team, the linebacker group. I mean, you had one really good player and that whole group is elevated immediately, right? Now, guys can kind of fall into more natural positions, and you have this guy who can kind of be that chess piece that moves around in all the different spots and let the other guys be at their best.
What a great way to put that, because with the NBA playoffs going on right now, what a great job there, Logan. I can't thank you enough for that one. Now,
best in the game.
They added another free agent, a veteran, in Ricky Seals-Jones, who is a former basketball player, made the transition over. But before he was signed, it was kind of the thought process. Logan was the number 1. The draft pick in John Bates is going to be the number 2, and then Samis at 3. With the Ricky Seals-Jones signing, what do you think that he fits in this offense? Was that more of depth, like a camp body, or was this based on possibly production with that number 2 tight end?
So what I think is, like, in the modern NFL, right? We talk about that all the time, how the game is slowly evolved, right? Before you needed to have 2 kind of knuckle dragging blocking tight ends, right? Now you can easily get away with 1, right? So the problem you run into is, who is your F? And he needs to be a game-changing player, right? In this offense, it's Logan Thomas. And then what happens to Logan Thomas if he gets hurt? Because you'll lose, let's just go off last year's production for him. You lose 70 catches in the year, right? Yeah. So who can come in on the roster right now and you feel comfortable giving you 70 catches? There's not a single person, right?
Right.
So you need to go find somebody. And I was a big fan of Seals-Jones when he was in Arizona. I thought he was going to be kind of the next big pass catching tight end. Obviously his career was derailed a little bit going to Cleveland, then Kansas City, but I do think he kind of has that skill set. You watch him move, and some of the stuff that's come out, by John Kine when he records practices, you see a guy who's a converted wide receiver, big body, nice twitchy skill set. And I think you say to yourself, he can win versus man-to-man. He can be an advantage in the pass game because, like, while Logan Thomas, I think, is a very well-rounded tight end, maybe top 9, 8, 7 in terms of well-rounded at the position. I think you get a guy who can replace some of his passing production. You have Bates on the roster now who can get his hands dirty and get his face in there and make people upset in the run game. And I think that is a nice balance. I think that's what you're really looking at with that signing. And then I think the other guy is Yeldon, or the other guy from Kansas City. I forgot his name.
Yeah, right.
That's, again, you're looking for a guy, an insurance policy for Logan Thomas if something were to happen.
Right. And sticking with Logan Thomas, I saw that someone tweeted out on Twitter that he was at the Tight End U that the Greg Kittle and all those guys are hosting down in Nashville. What do you see from Logan Thomas going into the year now that there's if you want to call steady quarterback at Ryan Fitzpatrick, more weapons on the outside, and like you said, a guy like Ricky Seals-Jones to maybe possibly add to that second tight end?
Yeah, so I think one of the things about Logan Thomas that I've loved since he made the transition from quarterback to tight end in Arizona is that he's gotten better every single year. And you can tell, like, just when he gives an interview and from things I've heard from guys around the league, he's just a true pro. You know, he just handles his business, and he's going to try and get better. Going down to a camp like that is so cool, you know, to get some of the best minds at the position talking shop. I mean, I wish that was around when I was playing, because that would have just been so cool just to be a fly on the wall for that. But, you know, I would actually expect his catch numbers to go down a little bit. I think now you have all these kind of targets on the outside. I think those guys should get priority in terms of ball distribution. I think he'll end up with probably 45, maybe 50 catches on the year, but they'll be for bigger yardage. You know what I mean? It won't be kind of all this underneath stuff. The offense will be opened up a little bit more. He'll have a little bit more breathing room underneath, kind of in that intermediate, you know, maybe 8 to 14 yard range. Seams will be open a little bit more because they can't sit on the hashes the same way. They got to get outside to cover those speedy wide receivers. So I would expect his production maybe to decrease in terms of total catch volume, but in terms of offensive yardage, I would think you'd see a very similar production, and I think maybe even more touchdowns, just because if they're on the field more, he'll get more opportunities. Like, a healthy offense is one that stays on the field, and I think they've kind of equipped themselves now to do that. Right. I think all players benefit from that, and I think it's important for fans to understand that success metrics aren't necessarily based on catches. It's based on these other things like yards per catch, touchdowns, first downs, and I think he'll still excel in those areas.
Right. Yeah. So you brought up Ryan Fitzpatrick. Everybody seems to love Ryan Fitzpatrick. By all accounts, all players who've played with him love him. I was just wondering, have you ever heard any interesting Ryan Fitzpatrick stories? And how do you think he fits with this team? Do you really think that he can push this team to compete for a playoff spot?
Unfortunately, I have not. I wish I had. I mean, it's like a kind of one of those things where it's like a ghost. You know what I mean? He's always
right.
He always talks about him. Oh, I was like 2 years ago, I played with him, and like he was whatever he was.
It's kind of like Bigfoot in a way.
Great
yeah. Like you just kind of missed him. You always kind of
might not even be real for all we know. Yeah.
That's right.
Logan believes in him, but I don't know.
But, I do think that you know, with him, one of the things that is a benefit of being in the NFL for so long and playing for so many different teams, he's been around many different personalities, many different locker room cultures, and I'm sure it's just like, you know, falling into a warm bath, right? For him to come into a locker room, kind of relate to people and crack jokes and understand and buy into the culture immediately. So, you know, everyone talks about, oh, he's been all over the place. He's never been able to sit anywhere, but I think that's an advantage, right? Because you've seen different leadership styles, you see different people, you learn how to communicate with different guys. And so I think when he came in, everyone was like, oh man, he's doing so well in the locker room. Like, yeah, no shit. Because like
that's why he's stuck around
500 times.
Another thing that's been super impressive with him, and I mean, I'm not a football guy, you know, I'm not a professional football player, but
you're not.
Think about how many playbooks that guy has picked up and how fast he's had to learn those and how well he's done. That's super impressive to me.
Yeah, I mean, when they were talking about guys that they wanted to bring in the offseason, like I thought that finding a guy like Fitzpatrick or, you know, the other guy, I forget the guy from Indianapolis, his name escapes me at the moment, but
Jacoby Brissett.
Yeah, Jacoby Brissett. Those guys who've learned multiple offenses and been in different teams are perfect for kind of like these bridge quarterback years because they've got a process, they've got a methodology for learning it. Like one of the things when I was kicking around the last half of my career is I had to develop a methodology for learning offense because I knew I had to come in and like I remember when I signed in Chicago, they signed me right after cut day and they expected me to start 5 days from then. So I had to learn a whole offense 5 days. So you have to learn skills to kind of be like, okay, like triage information, digest it quickly. How do I study this? Like what's important to me? And I think like when you do that 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 times in Fitzpatrick cases over the course, you develop a skill set for it. I think that's really cool. I think it just makes this transition easier for everybody.
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense. That's insane that they did that to you, by the way. But if you could, give us an update on Samis Reyes, if you've had talked to him, because obviously you guys work out on the side. You know, you're kind of I guess sort of mentoring him in his transition to the NFL. How has he looked since minicamp and the brief OTAs?
Yeah, so I've talked to him a little bit. I think he's kind of taking a little bit of a breather right now from training. I think he's training with another guy, whatever, it's not important. But in my brief conversations with him, he seems like it's not quite as overwhelming. When I first talked to him, I remember our first couple of meetings, it was like a tsunami of information that just washed over him, and he just couldn't keep anything straight. You know what I mean? It was just like, it was just so overwhelming, and that's to be expected. You know,
First
like
time playing football.
yeah, absolutely. Like I think people need to lower their expectations when it comes to that because people understand like the volume of and also the stuff that like most NFL guys take for granted, like getting in a stance or knowing what a coverage is or knowing a position like
never done that
technique or a 5 technique or a 9. Like none of that information's in there, so we had to learn so much stuff. But the last time I talked to him, he sounded actually pretty good. Like he was still kind of swimming a little bit, but it was starting to come together. I could have a conversation with him about different positions and different alignments, and that I thought was good. It was, and especially given the short time frame, the condensed time frame, right? Because he's only been on the team for like 2 months.
Yeah.
But for him to kind of be where he was, I was pleasantly surprised, and I think that's a really positive indication that he's going to have an opportunity to be on the team this year.
Right. Yeah, definitely. Like you said, definitely got to lower the expectations. But if he keeps just taking in information day by day, I feel like maybe eventually you get on the field, maybe year 2, year 3. Right. But I'm going to flip to the defensive side of the ball. I had to go Google this stuff up real quick, look it up. So Jack Del Rio, Khalil Mack got drafted 2014 to the Raiders. The next year, Jack Del Rio comes in. Khalil Mack's rookie year, he had 4 sacks. And then Jack Del Rio comes in. All of a sudden, he jumps up to 15 sacks. And then I looked at Denver when he had Von Miller there as an edge rusher. And obviously Von Miller, a beast when he came into the league. He had 11.5 sacks. Jack Del Rio gets there. He boosts up to 18.5 sacks. So where I'm going with this is Chase Young. He had 7 sacks last year. He was a rookie year. What do you kind of see from him going into year 2 and Jack Del Rio as his defensive coordinator again?
Real quick, all 3 of those edge rushers were the number 2 overall pick in their respective drafts as well. So
my gosh, this guy just spitting.
I know.
There's no such thing as coincidence, guys.
Spitting facts.
That's interesting. So yeah, that's a really good stat. I don't know how long you had to stay up to figure that out, but
10 minutes.
Google, man, it's a powerful thing. So I would say one thing that I would just draw and say this isn't like a 1-to-1 comparison is he's playing a different defense here, right? He was playing like a 34 defense in both those places, which is notoriously advantageous for pass rushers. And here, like Chase is playing like a hand in the dirt 9 technique, which is a little bit more challenging for pass rushers to be effective from. I think the advantage for Chase is that he did that in college and he's got a lot of experience with it. And I think one of the other things you talked about, like what's his expectation? I think pass rushers in general just understand going from year 1 to year 2 and having an off season kind of under their belt and, going to kind of understanding how offensive linemen are in the NFL. Like it's shocking. Like, I get to work out with Morgan Moses. He's an NFL offensive lineman. The dude moves like such a small human, but he's like 6'7" and 340. You know what I mean? He's like a dancing bear. Got 36-inch arms. He can touch you from across the room. Like that's the standard at the position, right? And so in college, you might never see a guy like that. And here every week you're seeing a guy like that. So your timing as a rusher is all screwed up, right? The distances are different. Like your get off doesn't get you quite as close to the shoulder as you need to be, right? So I think understanding and internalizing some of those differences like just come naturally for guys because they've seen, now he's got, 1,000 pass rush snaps from the last season under his belt. And I would only expect an evolution. And I think, Jack Del Rio is probably going to use him the same way he used him this year. But I think a lot of his production is going to stem from the fact that Chase is going to be just more comfortable as a rusher.
Right. Yeah. And so one of the main things with this team, I think, is the versatility of a lot of these position groups. Like you look at the defensive backs, so many of these guys can play corner and they can play safety. You look at the offensive line, all these guys can play different positions. How do you see this team really using that to their benefit, like especially the defensive backs? Do you think that we're going to see Bobby McCain line up as he's listed as a cornerback, but do you think we're also going to see him drop back into safety? Do you think we're going to see Kendall Fuller do the same thing?
So what I think is going to be the most advantageous situation for the Washington football team is the cornerback room with the drafting of St. Just or whatever the hell that is.
I wanted to ask about him, but then I got too nervous.
So I'm going to try. DBs are really hard to do for evaluations because they never get on the screen. They're all over the place, right? But I'm going to try and do one. And basically what I think he gives you is he gives you the opportunity to play more man. Like if you look at the Washington football team last year, they played a ton of quarters, like kind of an off coverage, right? And I think when you can mix in that man with like some dexterity and kind of move those guys around. And if you watch St. Just film from the Senior Bowl, his breakup compilation from when he was at Minnesota, you see a guy who's really, really scary in terms of being able to break up the catch point, for a big man. He closes exceptionally quickly, and that I think is a really nice add-in, especially with the guy they signed from Cincinnati, Fuller
Jackson, right?
Yeah, right. I think those guys having 3 deep at the position that you guys can cover, like legit cover, is really going to allow you to mix up a lot of coverages, be more aggressive, pressuring the football, on third down, because like to pressure, you got to play a little bit of man coverage usually, right? Mm-hmm. And last year they couldn't do as much as they wanted because I don't think they had the depth at the position. So now they've got that. I think you're going to see a much more dynamic defense. And I think, going back to the Chase Young point, like you're going to see more production from that front because you get more exotic in those third down situations with pressure, get more one-on-one pass rush opportunities for those guys, which I think everybody wants to see.
Right. Could I say something real fast? Logan, you are so good at this that you literally just answered something that I don't even think was a question. I like blacked out halfway through. I had a brain fart and just kind of threw words together and it didn't really make sense, but you answered it and you explained it perfectly.
I appreciate it. Yeah, no, you guys set it up. I'll come out here so easy. You guys just set them up. Really soft toss, just knock it out of the park.
I just picked random words out of the air. It sounded like. I think.
And one thing, Logan, about Benjamin St-Juste that I saw from his film, a lot of the times when the offense would go heavy on the left side of wide receivers, and they would have the tight end isolated on the right, the defensive coordinator would pick Benjamin St-Juste on that tight end, and it just shows the confidence he has in him one-on-one basis. So absolutely right with him being able to cover those big guys. But some news came out today regarding the NFL, Logan, and that was that as early as 2022, NFL teams can start using alternate helmets, old helmets that they can use. So there's been a couple helmets that you were able to use, the leather helmet in 2012, the RG3 year. What throwback helmet, if you could choose right now, would you have?
I actually, you kind of gave me a reminder of all of them before we started, and I appreciate that. And I like the leather. I mean, it's kind of silly.
Loved that.
Those throwback jerseys are kind of a little silly. And I remember wearing that and being like, this is a goofy looking helmet, but I like the swag I got right now.
Creative as hell.
Yeah, and it didn't feel like, we talked about the Seminole one, and I like the yellow one a lot. I like that helmet. I think that's really cool, and it's very demonstrative and very iconic and very traditional Washington football team.
Right.
But I think the leather one's nice, and I think what was the other one? It was the art one with the Indian on the side. And as we talked about, I'm not sure that's going to go over.
There's no way.
I would say the yellow or the leather one.
The jerseys now look so awkward when they don't wear the leather helmets with the, you know what I'm saying? They use the red, the burgundy doesn't match whatsoever, and they have a great face mask. Please bring those leather ones back.
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't a big fan of the leather ones, but now I'm kind of remembering they did kind of go good with the uniform.
They look perfect.
I think that's what I remember is the jersey was kind of cool. Pants were, it was very retro feeling.
It was
and
a darker shade of burgundy, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It was a darker shade of burgundy. It was almost like playing with almost like a black jersey in a way.
It's the throwbacks that they wear now. It's just they wear a different helmet with it because they can't change their helmet, so they have to wear that burgundy, Kyle, the one behind you, with it, and it just clashes. And I'm a fashionista, so I'm like, what?
I know, seriously.
Yeah. You are pretty swagged out over there, Mike.
With my sleeping bag behind me.
Yeah, but getting back on the field. I know a lot of people are worried about Antonio Gibson. He has the lingering turf toe injury. Me personally, I feel like they have a little bit of time off. I feel like he's going to be able to nurse it up and at least play through it into September if he has to. But what are you kind of expecting from Gibson? Do you think he's going to get involved in the passing game this year? How do you see Scott Turner using him in this offense?
So I'd like to see him use him more, obviously. I'd like to see him be more of a weapon, be more kind of like the Christian McCaffrey model. I think he is a better route running kind of skill set from a power speed standpoint than McCaffrey. But I think one of the things that kind of gummed him up last year is he's learning a new position and he couldn't learn the offense quick enough. So I'd like to see them kind of get, McKissick and Gibson on the field at the same time, really kind of mess with defense's rules because, most of the time you put two backs on the field, they match you in base. And if you match in base, then you could put one of those guys out wide and they have to get covered by a linebacker, which is basically a first down if they can get the ball completed, which they should be able to. So having some of those wrinkles, I think is going to be really nice if they can get I don't want to say both guys, if they can get Gibson to where he feels that comfortable with the offense.
And real quick before you go, Reed, with AG's turf toe, I know before we've had you on, you thought that he was possibly going to have a Pro Bowl type of year. Are you worried with the turf toe at all?
I am a little bit, yeah.
Okay.
I think turf toe, everyone kind of says, oh, it's turf toe, right? But basically, you got to remember it ended Eddie George's career, right? Turf toe is terrible, right? I had a turf toe surgery, like basically that ligament in the bottom of your toe, like it's called your plantar plate, and I tore mine completely. I had to get it completely reconstructed. And I couldn't really run right afterwards for probably 2 years, you know what I mean? Like, and then I had like hip problems, knee problems, back problems, because people don't understand like how important that big toe is for pushing off and gripping the ground. And so right now it looks like he's got some type of carbon fiber insert in his shoe, which is usually like the treatment for it to kind of give him some rigidity in his foot. But that takes some athleticism off you. You know what I mean? So I'm watching that closely if I'm a fan, because I think that can linger for a long time. And I've seen guys, offensive linemen, like never kind of be the same. You know what I mean? Because of injury, right? And like with a guy who's so skilled and athletic and dexterous as he is, like that's going to take some points off his Madden score, if that makes sense. So I'd hopefully get it cleared up, but those have notoriously, they linger. Like I knew a guy who had a turf toe for 2 years. You know what I mean? You're just, because like you never have time to heal. Like it's always jacked. Right? You're always re-injuring it. So I like, as a fan of him and what he brought to the team last year, like I definitely don't like hearing that he's still got an issue with it.
Well, so do you think then that he should have gotten the surgery this past offseason? I know that that's kind of been a big thing where people are like, why did you pass that up?
So I don't know the exact diagnosis of his injury, and I can't.
Right. That's true.
You know what I mean? Like it would help inform me if they said, oh, it was a grade 2 or 3 or whatever. Traditionally, though, like that surgery, I went and saw the foremost foot specialist when I got mine done. Dr. Anderson, excuse me, is his name, and he was kind of saying that oftentimes, like because of the location of that and the bones that are in the ligament there, it heals very, very slowly. So he was kind of saying like, I would recommend if it's bothering you to get the surgery. You know what I mean? And when you're talking to a surgeon, they tend to lean surgery as a solution anyway. Right. But I definitely, I'm a little concerned about it, and because I've had the injury, I've known guys who've had it, and it's no fun, Right. So hopefully you can get it cleared up.
Thank you so much, Logan. And to wrap this up, sir, I know you're incredibly busy. You got to go back to the kiddies. But to wrap this up, I just have a quick question for you. Carl Nassib, the Raiders defensive tackle, just came out as gay, came out to the whole world, essentially. For a former Washington football team player, like, is it as surprising in a locker room as it is for fans? Like, are you more aware as a player?
Well, I think, one of the things we always joked about when we were playing is that, like, of a 50-man roster, then, like, I forget what the statistic was. It was like 3 in every 100 people are gay or whatever that is.
Right, yeah.
So, like, there's 2 guys on the team who would be gay. You know what I mean? And
they might date.
What's that?
They might date or something.
They might date, right? Yeah. So if they could find each other, it might be this really romantic love story. But and so we always kind of joked about it. But like the ultimate thing that I kind of go back on with regards to this is like, I'm super happy that he felt comfortable enough to do this. We live in a time where he can come out and be who he is and be a role model for these kids in a community where like depression and suicide rates are very, very high, right? So awesome that he did that. Awesome that the country kind of has supported him. The NFL has supported him. Great job. But as a player, as a former player, like, obviously, like, I haven't heard anything about Carl Nassib being weird in the locker room, like even a little bit, you know what I mean? So like, obviously he's been a professional throughout. And I think that's important to keep in mind. Like, I think a lot of people think, oh, he's gay. Like, how is he going to resist all these men walking around? Like, he's a professional human being. Like, he can handle himself. He's obviously. And then I think the other thing that's important is just like the NFL team is such a unique thing in the sense that like you get these people from all these different walks of life, right? You get Republicans, Democrats, pro-abortion, anti-abortion, pro-Second Amendment, and like people have huge knockout, drag-out verbal confrontations about that. But the second you step on the football field for practice or a game, like you are united in your common purpose. And like that's what you hear from special operators in the military, special forces, Green Beret, Navy SEALs, right? Different backgrounds, different approaches. But when you come together, like because you're so galvanized by the common struggle, that all of that other stuff just kind of goes out the window. And I would assume, like, if I was playing, like, that's how I would treat it. Like, I can tell you, I've played against the guy. He is a beast. You know what I mean? He is a problem to play against. And so, like, that's what people should be talking about that too, right? He's a good football player. Yeah. Just so happens that he's got this, that he is gay and he came out, and that's awesome. But, like, he's good at football. And I think guys in the locker room will respect that about him because he plays the game the right way. He's physical. He's tough. He plays every down like it's his last. and I respect the hell out of him. So like, whether he's purple, I don't really give a care about that. So like that's my 2 cents on it.
I think that's awesome, and hopefully it'll kind of, if there are some other players out there that are, hopefully it'll give them the courage as well to come out and see that it's, I mean, the world's a different place nowadays, but also hopefully it won't put pressure on people to feel like they have to do that, because that's obviously something that you got to do on your own.
If you want to keep it private, keep it private, right? If you want it public, make it public. Logan, I can't thank you enough, sir, for joining us again, giving us great insight as always. I hope you have a great night, sir, and we will see you very, very soon.
What movie did you put on?
Bigfoot Family on Netflix. The kids are into that.
Oh, Bigfoot.
Yeah, we'll see. We talked about it, right? It's up there.
Yeah, there's no such thing as coincidence. I'm telling you.
That's hysterical. All right, Logan, you have a good night, sir. Best of luck to you, and we'll see you again very, very soon, all right?
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you having me on. Have a good night.
Of course, you too, brother.
Later.
All right, everybody. We just spoke with the one, the only, Mr. Logan Paulsen.
It's crazy that he's talking about the turf toe, because I tell you all the time, like, we were playing flag football and like Bo's big ass with his metal cleats stepped on my big toe, and my toenail was like legitly like 7/8 off of my toe, and it was like the most painful thing I've ever dealt with. I kept playing. I was trying to cut. Like he said, you can't plan, you can't cut. I mean, I'm a warrior, so I toughed it out. So like, but it was like brutal. So I couldn't even imagine like turf toe. Like, that sounds horrible.
Right, I'm pretty sure. I mean, like, I'm not a doctor either, but I'm pretty sure turf toe is where your toe actually starts growing turf. I heard.
No, but it's good that he brought up the carbon fiber thing to kind of bring it up, because a lot of people, when they were watching AG in practice, they were saying, "Oh, he's like running diligently, like he's not running like his usual speed. Like there's something off here." And it would make a lot of sense if he's wearing that carbon fiber thing on his toe, which is, like Logan said, it kind of abrupts your motion and how you step off. It kind of brings you down a little bit, which would make a lot of sense as to why he looked like that at training camp with it on his toe. Absolutely.
Right. Also, that kind of like scared off my like fantasy hopes, because I was going to be my keeper, but now I'm just like,
oh, stop. He's going to be fine.
Of course I'm taking my guy.
I know. All right, everybody, let's move on to our fan questions. And our first one is from the Colonel. He wants to know, Darius Guice, ? No way, right? Hall?
Hell to the no. I don't even think, let alone like Washington, that's already like off the table. Never going to happen ever again in life. Excuse me. I don't think he's ever going to get back into the NFL. I mean, obviously the charges got dropped and like there's no like legal ramifications from it, or maybe it got settled. I can't really remember which one it was. But either way, I mean, just some of the stuff. I mean, he was already kind of talked about pre-draft, and like people kind of had like question marks about him. Then all this extra stuff comes out after the fact that he gets arrested and all this other extra stuff. So I just think that no matter what he does, no matter what type of career, type of improving he tries to do, like in the media and personally, I just think that his NFL career is most likely over. Maybe he'll get into like the Canadian Football League, or maybe he'll play like a arena or like somewhere overseas or some type of minor football league. But
he can play with Johnny Manziel.
Yeah, exactly. That flag, or it's not even flag. It should be flag. But yeah, his career in the NFL, I'm pretty sure, is donezo.
Yeah, I'm right there with it. I'm not sure if his NFL career is over, because it wouldn't surprise me if Kyle Smith brought him down to Atlanta. Especially given
Ray Rice couldn't come back, I don't think he can come back.
I understand, but especially given the fact with that running back situation, especially what they have, their leading back is Mike Davis. You know, Kyle Smith's one that drafted him. Wouldn't surprise me if they did. But like I said before, I think Dwayne Haskins has a better chance of coming back and playing for Washington than Darius Guice. The fact that it was there is reason alone why they're not going to bring this guy in. You know, they're talking about people that will fit their culture and fit everything that they want to do here. Darius Guice, unfortunately, does not fit that at all.
Right, yeah. Guice was kind of a one-hit wonder. You know, he's not going to get a second chance. He had a chance, and he choked.
Yep.
You know, he's
but
screwed it up.
I was just saying, I'm just saying,
also,
the possibility of only the Falcons.
Those are terrible puns that I was doing.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
because
I was waiting for the mom spaghetti on a shirt or something like that.
Yeah. But also, I mean, it doesn't matter. Even if he did come back, he'd just get hurt anyway. It's not like he would play. He's not coming back now. I think that the things that he was accused of are, and it does suck that like if it really didn't happen and you can get accused of something like this, and all of a sudden you're not welcome somewhere, that nobody wants anything to do with you, your career's ruined. That's terrible. Yeah. But the things that he was accused of, I mean, he's been accused of a lot. And dating back to LSU, isn't he banned from LSU's campus right now?
Yeah.
Yeah. They literally just like act like he doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, good riddance, man. I mean, he broke my heart. I was so pumped for him.
And one
this is
thing,
how it did me.
yeah, one thing I will say is if it's not the Falcons, the Cowboys will have a home for them. That's for sure.
Yeah, the Raiders usually.
That's
They're
a good point,
yeah.
too.
Yeah. Now, the
Yeah.
second question from the Colonel, it's a true or false. The recent ruling against the Washington football team, did it make the Washington football team name not a possibility for the future rebrand? Reed?
Wait, I'm sorry. Say that one more time.
The Washington rebrand just got a huge blow in court by
Right.
saying that they couldn't produce, they didn't have rights to the Washington football team merchandise. So
Right.
is he saying, he's asking true or false, does this mean that the Washington football team is no longer going to be the team name based on this ruling?
Yeah, I don't think Washington football team was ever really going to be the team name anyway, and I think that this ruling kind of just cements it a little
Yeah.
bit. I think that they almost kind of like threatened us with it, or like are using it as like a scare tactic for us to be like, oh no, like it could be something really cool, but then it could be this, it could be. But like I said, I do like the name, but yeah, I don't think that this I think just kind of is the icing on the cake. I think that they will come up with something brand new.
Yeah, and look, in the report I read on CBS Sports, it said that the name was considered too generic to be able to have the rights to the actual football team merchandise, and also that guy, what is his name, Macaulay or something like that, the one
Culkin.
that hoards all of the team names.
The genius, yeah.
Yeah, him.
Dude.
And him, that had something to do with it. But yes, true that this means that the Washington football team will not be the team name because they don't have rights to the merchandise. One thing I will say, it wouldn't surprise me if they are purposely putting out a terrible product to sell with merchandise right now in order to get us hyped up for the new merch that's coming next season. I really do believe that.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just going to go true because before y'all just explained that and broke it down, I was reading like the stuff about it and like listening to people talk about it, and I had no idea what the hell they were talking about. I was confused as hell, but y'all just broke it down, so now it kind of makes more sense. So I'll go true. It definitely probably going to put it into the Washington football team as of 2022, and like you said, they're probably going to come up with something totally new, totally something that no one even thought of, or like even like you said, thought of. So yeah.
That's perfect. Now, this one is for you, Reed. Respectively, this is for you. The Colonel asks, I'm assuming Reed didn't break the bank for Mother's Day last month.
What bank, no, yeah,
That's hysterical. What bank? Oh,
I'm not spending any money on that. You know what I'm saying? And her birthday is like a week later, so it's kind of like a twofer. It's kind of like when you're born near Christmas, so like your birthday presents and Christmas presents kind of get all intertwined when you come from a poverty family like me. So yeah, no, I did decent. I did okay. I'm not gonna lie. I definitely didn't break a bank though. I mean, I think the banks have broken me over the years, dude. I am in so much debt.
Now our next question is from
You have
Andy Burrows in the
You have
UK.
like $10,000 you can help me out with.
Oi.
He's with FedEx ranked dead last in the listing of NFL stadiums. How important is it that the Washington fans turn that place into a fortress in this season? He said, yes, I know winning breeds that. However, it's our home turf. Let's make it a scary-ass place for teams to visit. How important is it getting home field advantage back in D.C. Hall?
Oh, it's 100% important. I mean, everyone knows that even if you haven't even gone to the games, you can see on the on TV when they're watching the games that the stadium is like overrun like 60%, 65% like of the other team's fans, maybe even more than that in most recent years, except for maybe last year. Well, actually, there's no fans last year, so never mind. Scratch that. Yeah, so it's been like 65, 70% other people's fans as opposed to like 30% of our home team fans there. Obviously, that needs to be changed. I do think that winning will change that. With all the hype of the team coming off of last season, I definitely think that there's going to be more turnout to the stadium on top of people being cooped up in the house for the past year plus. It's going to bring out more people to the stadium. And, yeah, I definitely think that this will be the first time, unless, again, they just come out and just completely fall on their face and have a horrible season, knock on wood. I think that this will be the first time in many, many years that there will be Washington fans overrun with away opposing teams fans. Like, it'll be not even 50-50. I think it'll be 60-40 as opposed to, like, what it's been over the years, like 30-70 split.
Yeah, it's the most important aspect for the Washington football team as an organization is making it back into a home field advantage. Because do you understand how depressing it is for a fan to go to a home game and be embarrassed that they're wearing the jersey? This happened so many freaking times, being overrun, getting mocked by Eagles fans, Cowboys fans, Giants fans. even Raiders random
I was
fans.
gonna say it didn't have to be NFC East fans. It was
Right.
just
Yeah.
any
And that's
team's
like when
fans.
we're playing the Steelers or something.
Right.
Like there's just always random team fans
Right,
there.
and like you guys can ever say like, why would you be embarrassed when you're walking out of that stadium? You almost feel like, why did I come here? Like this is just a waste, and it's the worst thing ever because what you're going through. I was there for the Monday Night Massacre against the Philadelphia Eagles. I was there for RG3's leg break. I've been there for some terrible situations.
Kyle, maybe you shouldn't go to the stadium.
I was
this
gonna
once.
say, I feel like a lot of these things are your fault. I feel
I
like.
do.
Burrows, yeah, I feel like if you guys could just like rescind his invitation.
No, but for real though, like I love going to Washington games. You know, I would go to every single one if I could. But you know, like
yeah,
I
but
haven't.
don't.
Yeah, but we haven't had money. But like I go whenever I can. You know what I'm saying?
You go to a lot of yeah, I know. But
yes,
it
that
hasn't
is
all been bad for you.
The single most important aspect for the Washington football team is getting home field back.
Yeah, and I mean, if you think about it, I mean, you guys basically touched on all the points, but like if you think about RFK, how RFK used to be, man, RFK, nobody wanted to go play at RFK. RFK was rocking. It had its own field, had its own vibe. The stadium, obviously the stadium shook. They rocked. Everything rocked. And it was intimidating. And FedEx has none of those qualities. So the best thing that we can do is everybody can show up there and everybody can just be as loud as humanly possible. And we should be good. We can.
I also
pray
think
to
it's like
the
a
gods.
societal problem because like we don't want to rep something that isn't doing well, you know. Because I do
Well,
think
no,
there is
that's
something
the other
along
thing.
with
That's
that.
the other
as
thing that'll
fans,
cure it.
we need to be better, you know.
Winning cures everything.
I will say also, a lot of the problem was the field was just so crappy, and like everyone's always getting injured on our field, and it's always just like, why us?
No,
well, hopefully nothing with them redoing the turf and redoing the field.
Yeah,
a lot of those on-field problems will go away as well. So
that should help.
Longevity for the players equals more wins, in my opinion.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now our next question is from our guy Tony Shivers, the MVP. He wants to know, what do you think about an alternate color jersey like black or gray? He says, I have a storm gray Tana jersey that is still sharp. And I know what he's talking about. It's like that dark kind of gray. And I like that look. Dude, I'm telling you right now, I'm all for the black jersey. Maybe have like a salute to service camo jersey. It was one of my selling points with the Warriors name, that you can incorporate the kind of militaristic uniform that you could have on special nights or a black uniform added. Absolutely, I'm for black or camo. The gray I'm not all for. I'm not a huge fan of that, but black or camo, I'm all for that, Tony.
Yeah, I mean, you already know, me and Kyle have been like the number one fan club of the black jerseys with like the burgundy trim, and it would be so fire. So look, any type of alternate jersey would be cool with me. Even like I said, the camo jersey, even they bring back the Madden mustard yellow jerseys for the color rush. Like, I just want to see a different type of uniform on the field. Obviously, like the burgundy and gold has to stay with the colors, obviously, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. But
yeah, I like it's 2021, man. It's a new year, new team. Right. You got to see something new.
When I talked to Jason Wright in that call back in December, I said, look, Jason, I know you just said that the colors are not changing, the colors are staying the same, but can there be colors added? And he didn't want to answer the question.
Right.
I mean,
I mean, obviously, we've talked about it before. Black, I think black would be amazing. But see, Kyle, I am a fan of something like all gray. Like I love when the Seahawks do that. I love. There's a few teams that do it that I just think it looks badass. I think that you could make it look really cool with Washington's colors. But I mean, you know, to each their own. And also, Kyle, this is Tony's question. Mm-hmm. So all I got to say is stop, collaborate, and listen.
Right? Yeah, Tony got me good with that one. That
was yeah. Yeah, you had the internet going nuts for a little bit, Kyle.
All because I had to shave my mustache.
All because you shaved. Dude, don't worry. If I shaved, people would be posting Jabba the Hutt memes and stuff like that.
I can't even remember what I look like. Whoa.
You've never seen
Kyle.
That? You've never seen what? When Jabba the Hutt gets killed?
Know.
No, I've seen it. I've just never seen Vanilla Ice do it.
You're so lame. All right, let's go to our guy, Ken Burgundy. And this is a rebrand, a new stadium question. Should the new football stadium be open, retractable, or a dome? Also, should the new stadium structure be an oval, rectangular, or horseshoe-shaped venue, Reed?
Oh, so I'm always a fan of the retractable. I think that in today's day and age, it makes sense that you can have either you can play in outdoors, you can play inside, you can do. I think that that's just kind of like where we're at, and I almost feel like it should be like that everywhere. Kind of. I mean, it really shouldn't because each stadium needs their own field, but I'm okay with it here, especially if we want to host a Super Bowl. I've never really thought about the shape of the stadium though. That's a good question. Horseshoe would be cool a long time ago, but right now I don't know how I really feel about that. But yeah, I've never really thought about the shape of the stadium, but I will go retractable.
They should shape it like
as long as we don't have it like an
dinosaur
octagon or something, or like in the shape of
A pentagon.
yeah, yeah, or a pentagon.
Pentagon.
Sacrifice people. Yeah.
I will say I've said this before. I do want it to be open. I know everyone wants to be able to host a Super Bowl and everything like that. There's other ways to be able to make it happen and make it work.
Right.
Obviously, retractable is the best way to do it, but in this climate, is there a way to make it happen? We don't know. But I will say the shape, I wouldn't mind the horseshoe because the Seattle Seahawks pulled it off
That's true.
with the Space Needle in the background. So if the stadium's in D.C., I'm all about the horseshoe and the horseshoe facing the monuments, the Capitol, kind of giving it that D.C. look and feel, euphoria with the game. So that I'm all for that.
Yeah, let it look at the swamp and those reptilians.
Reptilian.
Yeah, I'm all for. I've been like all for like the retractable roof. Like, obviously, like I hate going. I hate the cold weather. I hate the cold. Look at my skin. I hate the cold.
I hate the cold.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I want to be able to go to like I want to be able to go to games in like, December, hopefully January, February at some point,
Right.
hopefully in my lifetime. So a retractable stadium would be the best. Also, we live in the DMV where you get like literally 4 seasons in one day. So
Yeah.
I'd have a retractable stadium. But as far as like this, the shape of it, I'm like, I never really thought about that. But I guess if I had to go with anyone, I'd probably go like a horseshoe, just because. I guess it could be like, yeah, I like the horseshoe because like you got the open part of it, and then like if you got some nice scenery in the background.
Like it
it's all,
doesn't like the
nice.
horseshoe doesn't
Right.
need to be like legitimately nothing on that horseshoe side, the
Right.
open side.
Yeah,
like, you
yeah, I
can
know.
still have
After-
stuff
the
there.
shape, like the shape of a horseshoe. I
Right.
know,
Yeah.
I know.
That's what I was thinking at first when I answered it, but then after you explained it, kind of like Seattle, I was like, oh yeah, that's true. That's a horseshoe.
Yeah.
And it's
Whatever
very-
makes it seem like there's like the stadium is like kind of like looking down on the field, where it's like you're over top of like the fan or over top of the players and kind of just like,
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Now, our next question is from Johnny Local, Ash Burning, big guy on Twitter we all know. He said, would you rather Fitz or Taylor Heineke lead us to the NFC Championship game, and why? Hall. This was going to be really easy for me.
I know. I'd probably go Fitz just because I think he's the better of the two quarterbacks. And for a guy like Fitz, he's been in the league for so long, he's bounced around. He's kind of got that reputation of, oh, he's a loser because look at his record, when you can't contribute all wins and losses to a quarterback. And I don't know why people always do that. But,
Yeah.
I would go Fitzpatrick because I think he's the more talented at this time quarterback, or the more veteran quarterback. And I think that he gives us the best shot as a team right now to win.
Hey, I'll tell you right now, Ashburn, I don't give a shit. Just
I mean,
get
yeah,
us
I don't
the
give a
NFC
shit either,
Just give us
honestly,
the NFC Championship game, because I understand his point, essentially, that if Taylor Heineke leads us the NFC Championship game, that means that we have the quarterback of the future. Whereas if Ryan Fitzpatrick does it, it kind of means it's just a stopgap. We still got to reload. But I'll tell you, we should be reloading regardless of what happens with Taylor or Fitz. You know what I mean? Because this has to be something that is fixed down the line. This can't
Right.
just be something that's pushed along. Even if Taylor did that, you would still need to get somebody young and new in here just in case, because Taylor's body has shown to not be able to withstand a bunch of contact.
It's a great body now, though.
It is a good body.
So yeah, like you said, as long as I don't really care if we got there. I don't care who's starting. I mean, we could bring in Dwayne Haskins off the street if he brought us there. I'd be happy with it. But so just for sake of the question, I will give an answer, and I'm going to say Ryan Fitzpatrick, because Fitz he's never won anything, man. The guy's been around forever. He's done so. He's just been around forever. He's played for so many teams. I was about to say he's done so many incredible things, but like he hasn't.
It's crazy that Taylor Heineke's played in a playoff game in like his short minimal career, and
Right.
all these years has never been in a playoff game.
Right. And Fitzpatrick, I just think he deserves it, man. I think Fitzpatrick deserves a Super Bowl with us. That would be just amazing if he could cap
Oh
off
my
his career
goodness.
with that.
Oh, imagine that presser for
On
Super
his
Bowl week.
what is this? His 9th team?
Yeah.
Yeah,
If he finally won a Super Bowl on his 9th team.
That'd
and
be
it was
ninth time's a
us.
charm, baby.
Absolutely silly. Now, our last question is from Parker Hamlet of the Sidelines Washington podcast. He's got a good one for
There
us.
he is.
Who will be Washington's top fantasy player for this season, besides quarterback, obviously? Don't pull a cheap one.
Who's gonna go first? Who do you want to go first?
I will say, I'll say,
I think we know who he's going with.
you would think I was going to say Antonio Gibson, but I'm not.
I know.
I'm going to surprise people, and I'm going to go Logan Thomas because I think he's going to be a
Okay.
crucial red zone target this year for Fitz. And like Logan Paulsen just said, I think that his production as far as catches will go down, but his yards per catch, his yardage as a whole will go up. They might get him involved in the run game because obviously, like, he played quarterback. He was a kind of a mobile type guy. And like you said, Scott Turner showed you that quarterback sneak or tight end quarterback sneak that you did last year. You can get touchdowns that way. So I think that he'll be a big red zone target for us this year. So I'll go Logan Thomas.
It's Terry McLaurin. Terry McLaurin's finally getting a consistent quarterback play. So I know it's going to be. I know it's an easy one. It's a cop out, but it's
I was
Terry.
just trying to go the hard route.
I know.
Trying to go through the woods.
Getting those PPR formats, I think he's going to be generating a lot of targets and deep downfield. I think Terry's going to be the guy this year.
So yeah, I mean, I agree. I could see both of you guys being correct, but I think that if this guy's healthy, Antonio Gibson, I just think Antonio Gibson is so talented, and he's still really just learning the position, but he can do so much. He offers so much. He can get you points catching the ball. He's going to be a workhorse running back if he's healthy. I really think that he can be that guy. He's got the size for it. He doesn't have the wear and tear aside from this turf toe injury that just keeps nagging. But I really think before this whole turf toe thing, we found out that it was continuing going. I mean, Logan was on the show saying that he thinks that Antonio Gibson could be a top 3-4 back in the NFL. Yeah. He thinks that he's that talented, and he is. If you just watch him, the guy rushed for 11 touchdowns last year and had some huge games, huge moments, and he missed some time. So if he can stay healthy and really put it together, I think Antonio Gibson can be one of the best backs in the NFL.
Yeah,
I wanted to go Gibson, but I wanted to be different for one time.
Right. I was my order. I was like, I'm gonna go McLaurin, if not Gibson, if not Logan Thomas. So look at us. I also wanted to throw the defense in there, but
yeah, I was thinking about defense. Now today marks the 77 days until the start of the NFL season. So let's discuss who's the best player in NFL history to wear number 77. And I'll start with you, Hall. I wonder if we all got the same guy.
I will go. I'm pulling it up. I think his name is Curly Culp. Is the guy that I chose. I know we all have three different guys.
I don't know that.
You said what?
He's got to ruin it.
I'm just assuming we had three different guys. I don't know. Jeez.
What do you think? I am Carl Nassib?
How many people wore 77, man? Jeez. That was kind of funny. So yeah,
Logan talked about it statistically in Avery locker room.
It's true. He was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2013. He was drafted in, I believe, 1968. Yep, 1968 drafted by the Broncos, but he was traded during training camp over to Kansas City. He ended up joining Kansas City that year, guided them to Super Bowl number 4. 2 seasons later, he was traded to the Oilers. He ended up guiding that defense to their first winning season in 8 years. He was the defensive player of the year that year. He was all-pro that year. He was all-AFC 5 times. He made 6 Pro Bowls.
Good.
And the dude was just a monster. So I'll go with Corey Culp.
And top 5 name of all time.
Yeah, that is a good one. Mine is Red Grange from the Chicago Bears. He was one of the like you could say one of the reasons why NFL reached his prosperity. Once he came over from baseball, that's when things started really kicking off for the NFL. He was a big name. Everyone loved him. It's Red Grange.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, look, we all of us have somebody different. I'm going to go with the greatest number 77 of all time, and I am the person who is right here. I'm going to go with Willie Roaf, one of the great offensive tackles, of course, for the Saints from 1993 to 2001, and then he played for the Chiefs from 2002 to 2005. 11 Pro Bowls, 4 first-team All-Pros, and was a Hall of Fame class of 2012 member. Willie Roaf, man, he's one of the greatest offensive tackles of all time.
Yeah, his stat line was incredible. Thank you to everyone for your fan questions, your submissions. Thank you, Andy. Thank you, Tony. Thank you, Colonel. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Ashburning, Parker, everyone. Can't thank you guys enough for contributing and helping us out. We couldn't do it without you guys. And then, of course, thank you to Logan as well for coming on and be able to give us some more insight into the Washington football team because his takes are awesome.
So much knowledge.
Oh yeah, Logan is he's the best at what he does. Like
ESPN, holla at my man.
We've been saying it forever, but you are going to see that guy on all these different channels very soon.
100%. Yeah, 100%. I wouldn't be surprised to see Washington actually bring him on at some point. You know what I'm saying?
I mean,
they have to.
They should. They would be smart.
All right, everybody. That's going to wrap us up for this episode. We will see you guys next week on Tuesday. I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. Stay safe. Don't drink and drive. You know what I'm saying? All right, everybody.
Thursday.
We'll see you next week. I'm Kyle.
I work too much, man. I forgot what day it is. Oh.
And I'm going to say something real fast, Hall. You brought up the Oilers. Think about how weird of a name that is for a sports team. You know, that's like you named your franchise after a profession, like the Oilers. Hey, Jason Wright. Hey, Jason Wright. I'm throwing my hat into the mix. We're going to be called. Let's call us the Washington Bankers. Okay, stamp that, and that's going to be what we are.
Rectors. All right, everybody. We'll see you guys next week.
Who do you think I am? Carl?
Washington football. Woo! What's up, everyone? This is Kyle from the Burgundy Zone. We are releasing our own merch to support the show. If you want to rock the Burgundy Zone logo or you want to see Reed's face on your shirt, we got it. We're starting with t-shirts, hoodies, and zip-up. So if you're a fan of the show, make sure you snag one before they are gone. Check out the link in our bio on Instagram, or you can find the link in the description of the video. Thanks again for all your support. Until next time.